Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Mara. It's really great to be here to talk about water gold. I really appreciate Raritan Headwaters. Love this series of watershed tools for local leaders, and really pleased that I can talk to you about the Gold Star Standard in water. And as Christy said, I'm Ann Heasley, Program Manager for Policy and Planning, and I'm excited to talk about the Gold Star, but even more excited to say that in mid-May, we will be posting this new resource to our website. So let's see. I'm hoping that a lot of you already know about Sustainable Jersey, but I am just going to spend a minute to tell you about our program. In case some of you are not familiar, we're a nonprofit organization, and we are administered by this Sustainability Institute at the College of New Jersey, and we provide tools and training and financial incentives to help municipalities as they pursue sustainability. And this all culminates in a certificate award to municipalities, and we also have a schools program, but I'm going to be talking about our municipal program today. And if your municipality or school documents that you've met the standards that are found in our actions, then you get either silver or gold status. And we do offer grants. We just finished a round with PSC&G grants for municipalities. I think the schools grants are still open if you want to find a partnership project. But as I'm talking today, think about the actions and the tools that I'm going to talk about, because that's what we fund. And since our program started in 2009, we've had pretty good uptake. 81% of New Jersey municipalities are participating, and that covers a lot of the population of New Jersey. So today I'm going to talk about our water actions and the ones that you can work on to contribute to your municipal certification, but also towards a new Gold Star standard in water, an additional recognition beyond your bronze or silver status. You can get a Gold Star. So I'm going to talk about why are we talking about water? Then I'm going to talk about some tools that you can use, then explore, are we asking too much? And talk about the Gold Star standard in water. And then hopefully end with some ideas that you have about what you'll do. And as Christy mentioned, we're going to hold the questions till the end. And I know that they're going to monitor the chat. So, as questions come up, please put them in there so we can circle back and answer them. So why are we talking about water? And more importantly, what can municipalities do about water? I mean, what's the role of a municipality in creating a sustainable water system? So we know that municipalities are dealing with a lot of different water issues, from the legacy of lead in your water service lines to dealing with harmful algae blooms that seem to occur quite frequently every summer, that make it your local water resources inaccessible for swimming or fishing, dangerous to your pets. And we know that you're dealing with flooding, and flooding due to more heavy, frequent rains. And all of these issues impact the quality of life for your residents, and also, they can be minor inconveniencing, like flooding in basements or road closures, but it can be more substantial damage or from drinking water that has high contaminants. And we know these issues aren't going to go away. Climate change, and this report from the National Climate Assessment shows that this region of New Jersey, or the Northeast, where we sit, we've seen an increase in heavy events, and these events are very intense, and they often lead to localized flooding. And because they don't have a wide impact, they often don't get a disaster designation. So that means cleaning these issues up or dealing with them really falls to the municipality to handle. So in our state of our state report, we identified an overall goal for our work with municipalities on water. We're looking to have clean and safe drinking water. We want the water not only to be safe for drinking, but also for species and ecosystems, and also for our ability to use it for swimming and recreation. We want our water infrastructure to be adequate and resilient, and we want access to water to be fair and affordably, distributed fairly. And so to meet these statewide water goals, we know that municipalities are going to probably need to work across boundaries, because water doesn't just start and stop within a municipal edge. So we've developed tools to help in addressing local water issues. We have about a dozen that help you move towards a more sustainable water system in your municipality. And they're found on our actions page, and they're in a number of different categories. And I'm just going to stop and talk about actions because that's kind of a sustainable Jersey jargon. But basically that is the way we convey to municipalities our tools and our guidance on how to be more sustainable. So we have actions, over 150 of them in our program, that outline the purpose of the activity, why it's important for sustainability, who in your municipality should be involved, how long it takes to do the action, and kind of how much it might cost, what to do and how to do it. We sort of try to give you the recipe, and then what you need to submit to substantiate that you've done the work. And then we also have spotlights, which share what other municipalities have done under that given action, because we know a lot of people like to see examples in New Jersey and that it can actually be done in New Jersey. And then we have resources, guidance, and other materials that we know will help you in thinking about doing the action or actually doing it. So that's what I mean when I talk about actions. And, these actions aren't just from Sustainable Jersey, they're from a collective. We have 19 task forces that have helped us over the years develop these actions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Gold Star Task Force as we get further along and how they help to develop the Gold Star. So what are some of the tools that you can use now? We talked about drinking water, and that's a concern for municipalities. And how your drinking water comes to your town really is dependent on your location, and also can be, your location in your municipality, but your municipality itself too. So we know that 10% of New Jersey residents get their drinking water from private wells, and the remainder get their water from public water systems. And those water systems are also relying on wells, but they're also taking drinking water from surface waters. So really, you may have a private well, but within your municipality, there might be people that are using public water systems. So we have 2 new actions that we released about a year ago that focus on drinking water and drinking water quality. And those actions can be found in on the actions page. If you go to health and wellness actions, you can drop down and you can find these 2 new actions: private well outreach and testing action, and removing lead in drinking water action. The private well outreach and testing action is obviously for municipalities that are using where residents are using private wells for their drinking water. And the removing lead in drinking water is where, you have a public water system and maybe older homes that predate the mid to late 80s, and where there are concerns about lead in the drinking water. So just going to go through these two actions briefly, but removing lead in drinking water, as it explains on the slide, the goal of this is to reduce exposure to lead by raising awareness of its presence and requiring abatement. And the municipal authority to deal with water and lead in water is through your public health code. So that's kind of different from some of our other actions and worth noting. And the way this action is set up, there's 3 tiers. We like to have tiers and actions because we know that municipalities, some are more interested in moving really far along a path of sustainability, and some may be less hesitant, and some may need to work up to it. So this action is sort of designed to allow a municipality to pick on the spectrum where they want to move. And all 3 tiers of this action are asking you to do some education with your residents. But in order to get the 10 points, you not only need to do the education, but the municipality has to play some role in sponsoring testing. So this year, Newark received points for this action, the first municipality to do so, because they've done some extensive education and they also have offered testing. Then there's 2 other tiers for this action that relate to an ordinance. You can adopt an ordinance that requires testing if there's any change in residency, either homeowner or renter. That's the 2nd tier. And then the 3rd tier is like you have that change in residency testing requirement, but if there's something found, then you also require remediation. So you can see the more sustainable, the more points. And when you think about who should be involved in this action, it shouldn't only just be your green team and your environmental commission, but this is a great one to work on with your local health official, your municipal water utility. And, if you think you're going to go for the ordinance portion of this action, then it would be really good to include your municipal government and representatives from there, as well as at some point an ordinance would need to be reviewed by your municipal attorney. So moving on to the private well and outreach testing, this is also a variable point action, and it has 3 tiers. The first tier is to prepare a well test report, that's basically going to the Private Well Testing Act site that DEP maintains with information about wells that have been tested as part of that state law. And it's generalized data, but it can help you identify, important exceedances in your community. So we ask you to sort of just pull that information together. We provide guidance on how to do that in the action. And if there's certain things that you find that a lot of wells are impacted by in your community, it provides some information on remediation. So we ask you to put that together in a report and share it out with your community. And then for additional 5 points, if you sponsor or work co-sponsor or host a testing event to promote more frequent testing of water, then you can receive points. And then there's a 3rd tier that this is actually, I should say, not only do you have to do what you have to do, which is the Private Well Testing Act, but if there's a change of residency, which is already required by state law, but this ordinance would require, if there was something found, that it would be remediated. So that would be the 3rd tier of this action. A little different than what it says on the slide. I just want to point out that Raritan Headwaters Association, our host today, they do a lot of work in this area. I know, and maybe Mara or Christy can talk about it at the end. I know they have a very well-formed and well-used program. And so I think they probably welcome the opportunity to work with the municipality and help you get points. So another thing we talked about was flooding, and this is a map from Conservation Blueprint and shows impervious cover. And we know that that's in the purple, the darker purple, the more impervious cover. And we know that's in, the amount of impervious cover areas that are paved or roads or rooftops. The more of that you have in a basin or a sub-basin, the more impact it has on water quality. And it also contributes to flooding and generating stormwater. So we have several actions that relate to stormwater. And the first I'm going to talk about is the Enhanced Stormwater Management Control Ordinance. So every municipality in New Jersey has a stormwater control ordinance, and this action provides points if you adopt what we call an enhanced stormwater management control ordinance, which really goes beyond what the Department of Environmental Protection requires. So many of you know that in 2020, right around the time of COVID, DEP amended the stormwater management control ordinance rules and required municipalities to update those ordinance by March of 2021. And they may do an additional change to that. And our action basically has 4 tiers. We worked with, and this action is found, all these actions that I'm going to talk about that relate to flooding and stormwater management are in our land use and transportation category. And we worked with the Watershed Institute and New Jersey Future. They both had enhanced model stormwater control ordinances. So we looked at their ordinances and we identified ways for municipalities to either pick and choose from them or, adopt one of them and get points. And the more that you're managing stormwater, the more points you get. And we have these different enhancements. So a municipality can really pick the way that they want to address additional stormwater management. If your municipality is rural, you may not be concerned about small developments. But if you're in a municipality where there's lots of smaller developments that incrementally add to stormwater, then you might want to, change the definitions of major development or adopt a minor development. So there's different ways to do that. And we tried to use the existing model ordinances that were out there and identify with specific language, this is what you need to add to your ordinance in order to get these points. So hopefully that's clear, and we hope people are using that. 2 other actions that help with managing stormwater and reduce flooding are our green infrastructure planning and our green infrastructure implementation actions. And, that stormwater management control ordinance that I just talked about, the enhanced one, that really is talking about stormwater that's created by development. And these 2 actions are talking about existing stormwater and ways that municipalities can reduce the amount of impervious cover and use, change the way stormwater flows by redirecting it into green areas, rain gardens, swales, and other, smaller systems to help manage the stormwater. So as you might imagine, the green infrastructure planning action is about planning. And that starts with an impervious cover assessment. I put the note about Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resources Program. I know that Chris is he's either doing a session, he's already done one, or he's going to do one of these tools for municipal officials sessions, and his program has done an extensive amount of impervious coverage assessments throughout the state. And I know he's working with the Highlands Council to do assessments in the Highlands region. So, that might help you get that first 5 points. And then once you have that cover assessment plan, you get additional points if you establish short-term goals, and then more, that's the action plan, or longer-term goals for reducing the amount of impervious cover in your community. And as you might expect, the implementation action is giving you points for actually installing green infrastructure. So there's a demonstration project. We took some of our existing actions. We used to have a rain garden, green roof, rain barrel sort of actions, and we put them all in this impervious cover, 10 points if you do 2 of those. If you work on implementing those your short-term goals, your action plan, you get 10 points if you get to a certain threshold. And if you get to a certain threshold with the longer-term goals, you can get points. So access to water, that was one of our goals, is to make sure it's universally affordable and fairly distributed. That's one of the indicators of our goal. And while municipalities might not be able to play a role in sort of addressing affordability of water, unless you actually are providing water, which is not the majority of municipalities, we know that you can play a significant role in how people get access to water. And that is largely done through your open space planning and your open space acquisition. So accordingly, this year, just this month, we updated our open space plan action. We provide points if you undertake an open space plan and have it adopted into your as an element into your master plan. And one of the resources that we provide is the Camden Open Space Plan that was recently developed. It's really interesting because it focuses on access to water, but not only looks at access to water when it's evaluating land, but it also looks at the land's ability to manage stormwater, as well as the land's ability to combat or reduce heat island impacts. So it's really looking at the multiple benefits that open space and green space provides to a community, and sort of hones in on that, as well as some of the more traditional wildlife and other links that open space can provide. So it's really intentional about what it's looking at, and it's a nicely done open space plan, which we link to in our resource section. So I don't know, are we asking too much? Water is very complex. We have a lot of actions. We have even more actions that we'd like to develop, like a riparian ordinance action, a one for stream water monitoring, interested in riparian restoration. So we have a lot of ideas, and the Water Goal Task Force has an interest in additional actions. Here's Dr. Rochelle Walensky, our new director of the CDC, and I heard she had this plaque on her desk. And I think it's helpful to remember that hard things are hard. And while they're hard, we still want to make progress, and we want to try and help you make progress. So to help address those hard issues, a couple of years ago, Sustainable Jersey convened what we call the Water Goal Task Force. And that's a group of organizations, as we do with most of our task force, folks from nonprofit organizations, watershed organizations, academic institutions, funders, local townships, and representatives from utilities to develop the Gold Star standard in water. And thanks to Christy McDonald, you see her listed here as one of our Gold Task Force members who's helped us develop the Gold Star. And, you know, when we sort of conceived of this, we really wanted to try an approach that has often been called One Water. You know, not just to look at water from one system, not just look at drinking water, not just look at wastewater, but look at water in its entirety and, you know, have a holistic approach. But that's really difficult in New Jersey because, you know, while we want to have this holistic approach, you know, we're dealing with municipalities, and we've already talked about the water supply. There's over 582 public water systems in New Jersey. There's over 260 wastewater systems. There's miles and miles of river and, you know, coastal. So there's just a lot of different resources, and each municipality faces its own water challenges. So as we developed the Gold Star standard, we wanted to try to provide flexibility for municipalities to really understand what their water issues are and develop their own unique path to water gold to help us get to this collective goal. And so one of the building blocks of the Gold Star standard is the completion of a new action, and that's called the Municipal Water Story. And the purpose of this action is for a municipality to define and prioritize their local water issues. And we think this can happen by first undertaking a data collection, sort of creating a narrative that describes how water in all its forms, from drinking water and wastewater and stormwater, is distributed in your community and the role it plays in shaping your local environment, how it's used. And then working on engaging the public and sort of adding to that narrative. Everybody uses water on a daily basis. Everybody has water issues, and they may know of localized flooding. They may have information about great places to fish or recreate, or unique features in municipality. So the idea is to really not only develop this narrative, but to engage people and get a larger conversation about water so that you can identify some key issues and then start to think about ranking the priorities for action in water. So the Municipal Water Story, as we were developing it, Donna Liu was undergoing the Rutgers Enviro Stewards program, and she was looking for a capstone project for them. And she took an early draft of the Municipal Water Story action, and she dug in and developed a Princeton water story. And on World Water Day, the Watershed Institute posted a video, a YouTube video, where Donna talks about the Princeton water story. It's a short little video, and she offers to help municipalities develop theirs. And she also has put on the Sustainable Princeton website her full narrative, it's a 40-minute YouTube video on Princeton's water story. And so the next thing that Princeton needs to do is sort of do the outreach and engagement part of that action. And, you know, we try to, in the action itself, give you guidance on how to do some outreach. And we came across this one project, the Water Pantry in Deptford, New Jersey, where residents took a ball jar and filled it with water and, you know, wrote down where the water was from, and then just did a little description of why that water was important to them. And, you know, we don't really tell you how to do that engagement, but we really hope that we get some really exciting ideas about how to get people thinking about water more intentionally and thinking about the issues and what ones they really care about in their community. So this municipal water story action is open to any municipality, but if you're interested in pursuing the Water Gold Star, it's a required action. And we hope it leads you to, you know, these issues that are highly ranked, but also then if you are going for the Water Gold Star, you have to do for additional 5 points, what we call the navigational path. And that is simply to look at your issues and identify 2 additional actions that you're going to undertake to advance at the time you apply for the Water Gold Star, that you're going to advance and work on in the years ahead to keep your Gold Star. So, you know, looking at those issues and finding some actions. So we did try to, you know, develop a system that really is flexible and understands the water governance in your community and distribution of water. And so if you're interested in the Gold Star, you have to do 4 prerequisite actions. You have to do what we just talked about, the municipal water story. And you have to also have done an ERI or NRI, your natural resource inventory or your environmental resource inventory, both depending on what you call it in your community. And that action is really important because it provides a lot of the base data that you're going to need to do the water story action. And then we ask you to do what we call a high impact action. You know, you can select through half a dozen of the ones that I talked about today. And you have to do them to a certain tier level. And then you can pick another action that relates to issues in your community. And once you do that, as I said, you have to have your navigational path that you've done as part of your water story. And then you apply for the Water Gold on the Water Gold section of our website. And once you receive it, it'll last for 3 years, and that will give you time to work on those 2 additional actions and keep your existing actions up to date, and then work on, you know, identify 2 more. So we're trying to keep you progressing in water sustainability. So I want to sort of leave this question, what actions are you thinking that you might take? They don't have to be sustainable Jersey actions, but today's Earth Day, it'd be great in the chat or in the Q&A if we could talk about some of the things that you would like to do to improve water in your community. And I just have a couple more slides. I just want to let people know that I'll be giving a similar talk at the Sustainability Summit that Sustainable Jersey, every year we have a summit. Usually it's people gathering in person, but we're doing it virtually again this year. It's free. And you can learn about other actions in addition to talking about the Water Gold Star. I'll also be talking about complete streets, complete and green streets. So if you want to sort of look at that intersection of streets and making them usable for everyone, as well as making them work for green infrastructure, come to that session. It's what we're calling a coaching session to help you think about adopting a policy in your municipality. And just want to thank you for taking the time to join me today to talk about the Water Gold Star, and thank Christy and Mara at the Raritan Headwaters for giving me time to share this work with you. And with that, I'll stop sharing the screen.
Thanks, Anne. That was a wonderful overview of Water Gold. That it's such an impressive initiative, and I know how hard you worked on it. I enjoyed being part of that and getting to know you and the rest of the really talented people at Sustainable Jersey. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mara Tippett, and she's going to look for questions in the Q&A So please enter any questions you have for Anne in the Q&A, and we can hear about some of the additional things that you might be thinking about in your own municipalities that have to do with water and achieving water gold.
Yes, thank you so much, Anne. There's so much information. Each one of your slides could be a presentation in and of itself. So, I would love to hear some stories about, what some of our participants have done or would like to do in their municipalities to improve water quality and quantity. And so I'm going to address the few questions that we did get in the Q&A first. There was one initial question about, how to find current and historic aquifer levels in our area and municipality. I'm not sure if the link that I responded with came through to all of the participants, but the USGS did just develop a terrific new water dashboard, national water dashboard, where you can explore real-time data on streams, lakes, reservoirs, precipitation, water quality, groundwater stations, and that data is refreshed every minute. So that's a great resource to look for aquifer levels and groundwater quality throughout the state. And so I can share that link again in the chat if that wasn't visible to everyone. It is in the Q&A. So hopefully that answered your question, Kathleen. And let's see, you had a couple of more good questions. Let's see. The mention of the Sussex County Open Space Plan, which also had a water lens and was funded by a grant from the Open Space Institute. Thank you for sharing that. From Steve Foster, he's wondering if you can clarify the additional enhancements to the stormwater ordinance, the tier 3 and tier 4 levels of points.
So if you go to the action itself, there's a table or a link to a table. And so, there's like the first tier is like, okay, pretty basic. We're just asking you to take the New Jersey model ordinance and include information about using low impact techniques in your ordinance, just a few sentences here and there, just to make sure that you don't cut down all the trees. Then do make sure that you're doing the required training that you're supposed to be doing of municipal officials. So that's sort of the 5 points. Then the next tier is a couple of different changes to the definition of major development and other things that are sort of base requirements. And then there's a selection, and I don't remember, we did this in March, but I've already forgotten. There's a set of different enhancements, and you can pick 2 to get level 3. And if you pick 4, you get level 4. So it's just basically allows the municipality to choose from a number of different things like, maintenance. Are you keeping track of, those stormwater green infrastructure facilities that are being developed in your community? Because, it's really easy to forget about them because they don't look like your traditional stormwater detention pond. And, something that's fresh and working today needs to be maintained in order to work tomorrow. So, one of the enhancements relates to how you ensure that management. And, some of the other enhancements relate to whether you want to try and manage more smaller developments. So it's really, it's an option. I hope that answers your question. We tried to make sort of required parts in the beginning of the action, but then allow you to choose to be responsive to your community needs. And there's guidance in there about, like, if you are a municipality that's dealing with this, this is what we recommend.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as we obviously, we have rural communities and we have urban communities, and their needs are going to be very different. So it's great to have those different options there. Another question, when is the Gold Star standard for water application going to go live on the Sustainable Jersey website?
May 17th.
Right?
May 17th.
Oh, May 17th. Okay.
The beginning of the, we hope to announce it at the summit, first day of the summit.
Excellent. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and
That's
I
great.
don't know, is New Jersey, yeah, I think there's municipalities that work with New Jersey American Water in your region.
Sure.
So one of the, we do have one municipality, there'll be an application, if you're interested in undertaking the water story. We are asking municipalities that are interested in doing that to, we'll be announcing that on the 17th as well, to just fill out a brief application of their interest, and we'll select one municipality to sort of pilot. And the municipal water story action, the goal is to help a municipality do it, to get points for it, but also to provide a spotlight, because we know that's really important for municipalities who want to undertake an action, to see how it's done.
Yes. Yeah. It's very helpful to have those resources there and see what other towns are doing as a guideline. That's great resource. Can municipalities work with schools on common projects, yielding points for each in their separate Sustainable Jersey and Sustainable Schools applications?
Yes, they can. I mean, they just have to make sure that they're fulfilling the requirements of both actions. So yes, and we have a couple of sessions this year in the Sustainability Summit. We tried to include a lot more sessions on schools, and there are going to be some case studies of municipalities that have indeed done sort of cross sort of pollination kinds of things.
Okay.
Definitely encouraged.
Yes. So we do have one vote in the chat for an action towards riparian restoration. There's also another question wondering if there are plans to have an action that focuses on known contaminated sites and their effect on water quality.
I mean, we do have brownfield actions. They don't really link necessarily to water quality, but we do have a series of actions that really help you identify your brownfields in your community, and then also, work to figure out what to do about them. Okay. So those are, it's its own action category. I'm not as familiar with those. I know about them generally, but I'm not as familiar with those actions. But there are resources in them, and there are folks that are available to help with those actions. If you have questions like that, I would definitely reach out to info@at Sustainable Jersey. And just to go back to that riparian action, one of the things that we have built in, and I didn't talk about it here, we know we don't have all the sustainability ideas figured out. And so we have a group of what many of the towns that probably are participating know. We have our innovative projects actions. So if you're doing an action that's responding to a water issue in a way that we haven't outlined in an existing action, like riparian restoration, by all means, submit it, make sure it links to a water issue, and make sure that it, meets the requirements of innovative. We would love to see that, because that helps us as we develop the action. Okay, this is how a municipality approached it. This is what the municipal role is in that kind of action. Because that's the kind of, the hard part about that action is there's a lot of people doing it, but it may not be a municipality. So how do you make sure that, a project that Raritan Headwaters is working on in a municipality is either getting municipal volunteers at a certain level or municipal input, or is on municipal land or some connection. That's what we're looking for there.
And then just going back to the question about the known contaminated sites, we can really link that to the importance of having those testing programs, and particularly if you have residents on private well that may be near those known contaminated sites, encouraging them to do certain testing. I mean, that's really where the local knowledge, when you're presenting these programs in your municipality, you are aware of these local issues, and you can then better guide your residents to do the testing that would protect their health and to monitor their drinking water quality. So I suppose that, as water can always, always does, it ties in many different ways. So let's see.
I saw someone, I saw it pop up in the chat that someone says only in the New Jersey American Water right now. For now, that's the only place we have funding for doing that pilot. Except that if you partnered, you could have, if you haven't, you could have done it through the PSE&G grant. If you didn't do that this year, you could think about it for next year. And we are going to have a solicitation for, it's not going to affect you guys, but Atlantic City Electric, their service territory is going to do a, I think it's called the Sustainability and Resilience. So it's, for protecting open space, doing municipal water stories, doing resilience actions. So we keep trying to get funding for it, and we will continue. So one of the links that I put in that one pager of links is to make sure you're on our eBlast mailing list so you can keep up to date.
That's great. We did just do a presentation also with New Jersey American Water, 2 Watershed Tools for Local Leaders webinars ago. We focused on lead and lead testing, and that recording is available on our website. And you mentioned Chris Abrupta's talk on stormwater and green infrastructure. That will also be up on our website so that you can view that presentation as well.
So those have both happened?
Those have both happened.
Oh, great. So I'll watch
last
those.
week, Chris's talk was last week.
Okay.
And NJ GeoWeb is also a great resource if you do want the locations of the known contaminated sites, for example, in your municipality. That's a great resource that you can use very easily to get those in a map to see where those are located. You can look at groundwater contamination areas, all of the areas served by public water versus private well. So that's a great resource for you.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I don't think we list that in sort of the chapters of the municipal water story action, but if people started to do that, we would, we'd love to see that.
Yeah.
We always try to keep the bar, not the.
So we really only have a few minutes left, but we didn't get to, if anyone can share, a story from maybe an action that they took in their municipality or one that they have planned. I would love to share that. If you want to share it in the chat, or I may even be able to unmute you and you can talk about it. But we love to hear what all of our municipal partners are doing, to improve our water resources. So please share. Please share. Let me see if we have any other questions here. Yeah, so right, and our next webinar next week will be on the health of streams in your municipality. So that'll be an introduction to our stream monitoring program. And there's some great resources on our website where you can explore the stream monitoring data in your municipality. I'm just looking for other questions, make sure I got to everyone here. And as I scroll through, and you mentioned 10% of New Jerseyans are on private well. It's actually almost 80% in the Upper Raritan region. So it's a very important issue out here in our more rural communities. I think I may have gotten to everyone's question. If I missed it, please repost it.
Yeah, I just saw quickly that Kathleen asked about her open space plan.
Oh, thank you.
We didn't, we updated the guidance and the links and the resources, and we just tweaked the submission requirement and clarifying that it, you know, if you adopt it as part of your master plan, you get points. There was some confusion. People were submitting re-examination reports, and we're not really interested in that. It was, so we clarified that, you know, if you do an update to your, if your plan is older than 10 years and you do an update to it, we want that update adopted to your master plan. So that would be the only difference from our old action, except that we provided a lot more contemporary examples. And I will definitely check out Sussex. And if you have other examples, send them to me.
Thank you. And you were so good to provide a list of resources that we've shared in the chat, but we will also share that when we post the recording of this webinar, we will share that document of resources that you provided. So that will be up on our website as well.
Yes, thanks so much. Thanks for
And
having
we want
me.
to work with you. Thanks, Anne.
Okay.
Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Yes.
Yes, happy Earth Day. Take care.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.